Welcome to Ingenium. I'm the Infantile Man, and this is the Infantile Manifesto. At the outset of our revolt against adulthood, we must state with full clarity that our strife is not against adulthood as a virtue or a mode of behavior, for we recognize the necessity of this so-called virtue in many realms of the human life starting from a certain age, before which we are preserved through the adulthood of our caregivers, be they parents or otherwise. Our dispute is with adulthood as a mode of being, a prison into which we are expected to transition past a certain age, and a barrier that stands between us and our said caregivers, because our loss of our infantility during our years of development corresponds with our loss of our freedom to act and be in any way resemblant of our true essences. We can even go further to say that our freedom is embedded in our infantility itself, but not merely a byproduct of it. They call teenagers ruthless, and parents look at their teenage kids in sorrow as they reminisce over the innocence that these kids left behind as they departed from childhood. The innocence that they refer to is in reality the malleability that they attribute to a child's free spirit and curious nature, the fertile soil in which they were once able to plant their vile seeds of false wisdom and debilitating cautiousness. And the ruthlessness and rebelliousness with which they describe the teenager is in reality the final strokes of resistance that the infantile spirit gives out as it undergoes its death throes under the excruciating grip of adulthood, refusing until the last moment to give in to this leviathan, sneaking its way into the person's being in order to impose its tyrannical sway over the human soul. More often than not, the child is conquered and crucified, and the memory of these final strokes of the teenage years are framed in the human mind by its new adult lord as the essence of the infantile mode of being, when in actuality they merely mark the downfall of the once glorious reign of the child, as if like any tyrant it fears that its subject would realize what the case would have been had this more illustrious force won the struggle, because it knows full well that it would have been a reign incomparably superior to its current dystopian rule. We recognize adulthood as a tool and nothing beyond that, an essential element of our existence in a world filled to the brim with challenges and hurdles against which the facets of adulthood can serve as a sort of shield. But we shall by no means adopt the shield as an idol or an end in itself, and forget what it should be used to preserve in the first place, namely our childhood. Since when did the guard become more precious than the gem? What made the fortress superior to the castle? There's a lot to be learned from a child beyond the mere ability to find joy in the meekest details of life. From the same trivialities that a said adult would so smugly dismiss, a child would extract an abundance of lessons and insights. From the same grains of sand on which adults would obliviously print their clumsy steps, kids would channel all of their mental and physical faculties into erecting some of the most alluring structures. The reality that an adult struggles with and yields to, a child strives with and bends to his or her demands. And if reality has the audacity to resist, they would move on to their next endeavor with all the vigor in the world, as if they had taken an oath upon themselves to never let reality laugh last, while an adult would kneel in front of it in awe, begging for mercy from its supposedly undefeatable wrath. But do you know what's truly undefeatable? A child's grasp on life, the instincts that are still ablaze within them, the instincts that form the essence of what it is to be human. The same instincts that are corrupted when adulthood with all its self-imposed and fear-inspired boundaries begin to reign supreme within a person's psyche, spreading the decay and bitterness that it tends to so cunningly mask as wisdom and restraint, as if the human race became what it is today through such cowardice, and not through the infantile drive that pushed us time and time again into the belly of the beast, from which we always emerged with what truly deserves the label of wisdom. We frame civilization as man's conquest of nature, and if such a claim carries any truth in it, then civilization owes a large part of its formation to this infantile drive that led us to toy with the supreme forces of nature. Adulthood is the sedative that maintained achievements, but the so-called rashness of the child within is what pushed us into the unknown landscapes where we attained new ones. You know adults and you know children. Who is more likely to think up human flight, or to conceive the idea of virtual reality? Such bizarre ideas are no strangers to the infantile mind, whereas the adult would be the one shooting them down with claims of their being unrealistic or, ironically, childish. When one of these innovations sees the light, then the adult can come in handy as an organizer and a sustainer, but the child remains the mastermind to which the adult shall forever be subordinate. We wholeheartedly refuse to live as slaves to our frontal lobes, and so we call on Senex to pledge allegiance and subordination to puer aeternus, so we can establish a world where Peter Pan syndrome becomes the new supreme state of mind, where the old spirit kneels before its juvenile master, where joy supersedes safety, and where curiosity overrides caution. All the old behold, the new era is juvenile.